another edition of Cambridge Inside Out, the sequel. My name is Robert Winters, and I'm here with my lovely co-host.
My name is Susana Segat. Thank you so much for joining us on CCTV's 25th anniversary year. We're really happy to be here. And in this program, we are going to introduce the candidates for the 2013 municipal elections.
Right, I like to say this is a little bit sort of like speed dating. It's
well, it has to be because there's 25 candidates.
25 city council candidates, and time permitting, there are an additional 9 school committee candidates. So perhaps we should just sort of get right to it.
Well, first.
But first.
Okay, so the question on the street this week was, I've heard that some people aren't running for city council. There's 9 of them, so if 2 of them aren't running, what does it mean? So there are 2 people who are incumbents who are not throwing their hat in the ring again, right?
That's exactly right.
So who are they? What's going on?
The first person is Marjorie Decker, who was elected as a state representative and chose not to seek or re-election to the city council. And the second candidate was the current mayor, Henrietta Davis, who's actually been a city councilor since being elected in 1995, and she also decided not to seek re-election. So we have 7 incumbents this year, and as is often the case when there's 1 or more vacancies, there tends to be an influx of new and interesting candidates, and this year is no exception. We actually have a relatively large field of 25 candidates now seeking 9 seats.
So the other question is, since there's 2 incumbents who aren't running again, does that mean that there are going to be 2 new people on the city council?
Well, it means that there's going to be at least 2 new people on the city council. And though incumbency is a very strong indicator of likelihood of re-election, it's certainly no guarantee. And in fact, it's sometimes the case, often the case, when there's an influx of many new candidates, a lot of voters will continuing voters may be drawn to attractive new candidates. Glenn Kuchar used to refer to this as the pretty new face phenomenon. That has nothing to do with gender, by the way. It's just there are attractive candidates, and the incumbents are certainly very aware of this. But it does increase the possibility, makes for the possibility that in fact an incumbent might not actually be re-elected. So candidates are nervous.
Okay, so there's 25 of them. So let's see. Okay, I'm doing the technology bit again. So
right. I'm very dependent on Susana for our technology. So we're going to
we're all in trouble here.
We're going to do a bit of a walkthrough, very, very brief. As I say, it's like speed dating of who the candidates actually are. So here goes.
Here's the first one. And we're doing this in alphabetical order?
We're going to do this alphabetically for the city council candidates.
Okay, so here goes the first one.
All right, the first candidate is a new candidate, is Dennis Benzon, who's actually run in the past not for city council, but for Massachusetts State House and Senate. He lives in Central Square area on Pine Street, so this is his very, very first election. And after Dennis, so let's see, we got to, you can just, I think, close.
Oh my goodness, okay.
Right, so we're going to, it's probably best to do it that way. So we can close that.
But look at you while I screw it up here.
All righty, okay.
Oops.
All right, so
the second one. Here it goes.
There we go. So our second candidate is also a new candidate, is Dennis Carlone. He's a Cambridge architect, recently moved to Washington Avenue in North Cambridge, though he has been living on Martin Street for many, many years. This is his first election.
All right, so let's go to the third one, alphabetical order.
Okay, now our next one is our first incumbent of the group. This is Leland Cheung. Leland lives on Garden Street. He's, as I say, an incumbent. This is his 3rd PR election. He was elected his very first time in the year 2009, and he has now served 4 years as a city, or will have served 4 years by the end of this year as a city councilor.
All right, let's go to the next one.
The next one, just one at a time. Here we go. Our next candidate is Jana Key. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. This is her first run in a PR election in Cambridge. She lives at 12 Hilliard Street in 02138. She actually was previously, I understand, a local candidate in her previous residency in Utah. I believe. So that's
So she's run before, but just not here.
exactly. All right, so that's with Jana Key.
So she's going to hopefully understand PR in a different way.
Well, that's right. Well, I hope she's watching the program.
Okay, here's the
All
next
right.
candidate.
Our next candidate is another incumbent. This is Craig Kelly. Now, Craig Kelly lives on St. Gerard Terrace in North Cambridge. He's actually, this is probably his 7th PR election in Cambridge. He served for 8 years when he was first elected to this Cambridge City Council in the year 2005.
Okay,
All righty.
I'm getting very sophisticated.
There we
with this.
go. All right. Now, our next candidate is a new candidate. This is James Lee of 400 Broadway in mid-Cambridge. I actually haven't met him yet, so I can't really say too much about him. So other than to say this is his first run at public office in the city of Cambridge.
Okay,
All right. Next on our list is Logan Leslie. Now, Logan Leslie, this is his first run at public office. He's actually currently a Harvard student, and he lives with his wife and child on Fairweather Street up in 02138.
okay,
All right.
another incumbent.
Here's a familiar face, former mayor and now relatively longtime city councilor David Marr, who lives on Appleton Street up in West Cambridge.
He started out in the school committee.
He actually started off in the school committee. He was originally elected in 1991 to the Cambridge School Committee, and then ran for city council and was elected in 1999. So he's actually served for a total of 21 years in public office.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Okay,
All right.
next.
All right, our next candidate is Nadeem Mazen, who is, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, he lives on Magazine Street in Cambridgeport, and he's a former MIT person, and I believe he runs 2 businesses. One's called Nimblebot, and the other one is called Danger Awesome, which has a frontage on Prospect Street in Central Square. This is his first run for public office.
Okay, just take a brief break here, just so I get the technology down. These
Alrighty.
are very interesting candidates, aren't they?
Yeah, as I say, vacancies really do bring out an interesting field of candidates.
They do. Okay,
That's
let's go to
absolutely
the
true.
next one. Here goes.
Alrighty. Now, our next candidate is Mark McGovern. Mark McGovern is actually a current member of the Cambridge School Committee and has decided to try and run for a city council seat.
And I don't know why that picture is there. We're really looking at this picture.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I always allow candidates to post. This is a picture of his campaign manager.
Okay.
So he lives on Pleasant Street in Cambridgeport. He was originally elected to the school committee in 2003. So this will actually be his 6th PR election. So he's a bit of an old hand. So he's actually served for in elected office for a total of 8 years.
So he's actually on the school committee now.
He's actually currently on the school committee and hoping to pick up a council seat.
Okay, we'll talk about the school committee next,
Absolutely.
later on.
Yep.
Okay, here's the next one.
All right, next candidate is Gary Mellow, who lives on Franklin Street in Cambridgeport. He ran 2 years ago, so this is actually his 2nd run for public office. And, well, that's what I will say for
Okay,
Gary.
let's go to the next one.
All right.
Oops, whoa, sorry.
Okay. All right, our next candidate is Mushtaq Mirza, who lives on Massachusetts Avenue in Central Square area. This is his first run for public office.
Excellent. Next one.
Our next candidate is Greg Mori. Greg, for him, this will be his 4th run at public office. He lives on Fairfield Street in North Cambridge.
Excellent. Next one.
I hope I get the pronunciation correct, but this is Ron Payden. I hope I got that correct. Who lives on Aberdeen Street in West Cambridge, and this is his first run for public office.
Great. I think it's great, all these people running for the first time. I love the engagement, okay?
Right. Now, the one candidate for which we don't have a picture is Leslie Rebecca Phillips. Leslie lives on Cambridge Street in the 02138 part of mid-Cambridge. This is her first run in a PR election, though she actually has served as I think a Democratic Party state committee woman.
Yeah, that's true.
I believe that's right, yes.
That's true. Okay.
All
Next
right.
one, another incumbent.
Okay, our next one is an incumbent. This is Kenneth E Reeves, who lives on Harvard Street in mid-Cambridge. He's actually served, this will be his 14th PR election. He was originally elected to the Cambridge City Council in 1989, and he's he's sort of tied for tops here. He's actually served for 24 years on the Cambridge City Council.
Right. Okay.
Our next candidate is Sam Seidel, who lives on Broadway in mid-Cambridge, actually just a few doors down from me. This is his 5th PR election. He was originally elected in 2007 and served 4 years. He was actually defeated 2 years ago, and he's hoping to regain the seat that he lost 2 years ago.
A lot of people do that, don't they? When they lose, they try to come back?
Yeah, I
Does
think
that
it's true. It used to happen a little more often than these days, but yeah, it's definitely a pattern.
That's good. Okay, next, another
All
incumbent.
right, another incumbent here. This is yet another former mayor. This is Denise Simmons, who lives on Harvard Street in Area 4 part of Cambridge. She was originally on, like David Marr, she was originally elected to the Cambridge School Committee, actually the same year as David Marr in 1991, served 10 years on the school committee before seeking a city council seat in 2001 and was elected in her first try for a city council seat. She's now been a city councilor for 12 years and therefore has served a total of 22 years in public office.
Yeah, time flies. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
And here we have another new candidate. This is Jefferson Smith. Jefferson lives on Tremont Street, just in the, I guess, Central Square, mid-Cambridge, actually not quite mid-Cambridge, Area 4 part of the city, I believe. I believe he works for the Department of Transportation and has been very active in Democratic Party politics locally. So this is his first run for public office. All right, our next candidate is another longtime incumbent. This is Tim Toomey. Tim Toomey lives on 6th Street in East Cambridge. I believe he's the only one of our candidates with an 02141 zip code, right? So from that side of the tracks.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was a little surprised myself. He was originally elected to the Cambridge School Committee in 1985 and served 4 years on the Cambridge School Committee before running for City Council in 1989. So he and Ken Reeves actually share the distinction of being the longest serving current city councilors. So he's now served 24 years as a city councilor and a total of 28 years as an elected official. He also, by the way, simultaneously is a state representative for a portion of Cambridge.
Okay. A little more.
Alrighty, now we're down to Minka. All right, our next candidate is an incumbent, Monika Van Meurs, who lives on Essex Street in the Central Square area, actually Area 4, but very close to Central Square. She's now an incumbent. This will be her 3rd time running in a PR election. She was elected 2 years ago in 2011, and by the end of this year will have served 2 years.
Okay. Next.
All right, our next candidate is Luis Vasquez.
He's a newcomer too, right?
He's our youngest of the city council candidates. He's only 25 years old. Recent graduate of CRLS. I've met him, his wife, and his children, and they're wonderful people. He lives on Market Street in area, I guess that's Area 4. I think that side of the street is still Area 4. This is his first run for public office.
Okay. This is a lot of people.
It is a lot of people. Our next candidate is also a newcomer, challenger. This is Kristin von Hoffman. Kristin is currently, I believe her title is the Sustainability Manager working within the Cambridge School Department. And she's seeking public office. She lives on Walden Street in North Cambridge, 02140. As I said, this is her first run in public office.
Okay.
All right. Our next candidate is Ellie Lerden. I think we skipped one. All right, maybe I'm out of order. Ellie Lerden lives on Pleasant Street in Cambridgeport. This is his first run for public office. He's a well-known activist within, well, all around Cambridge.
Okay. And last but not least.
And I actually noticed that I have an alphabetical error there. So W does come before Y, I
Well,
believe.
it wasn't on purpose.
I know, it's my error. We'll have to fix that soon. So this is James Williamson. James lives on Jackson Place in North Cambridge, 02140. He's another local, very ever-present local activist who, this would be his fifth run in a PR election for Cambridge.
Excellent.
Alrighty.
So that's all the city council, 25 of them. And I just want to point out, I have run for Cambridge School Committee and have served in the Cambridge School Committee, and it's really tough to be a candidate. And I want to thank all of the newcomers, all the people who have thrown their hat in the ring for running, and all the incumbents for persevering. It's hard work, and it's really valuable public service to the community. So thank you all for running. It's a win for us to have this many people on the ballot.
Now, I think we actually have time
to do the school committee.
I believe
I'd love to do the school committee.
The speed dating is just great.
This is great. So I hope that everyone, while they were looking at these 25 people, that they're starting to get to know them, and that eventually on election day on November 5th, you'll be able to rank all 25 of them.
Yeah.
Give them a number.
Absolutely.
All of them.
The page, by the way, the pages that we're accessing these are ones that I load up, are called the Cambridge candidate pages at vote.cambridgecivic.com. And as the election season proceeds, we'll be soliciting more and more responses from candidates, and we'll be posting more information about the candidates. Unedited, really, it's the information that comes from the candidates, and from the candidates only. So that'll be coming up soon.
Well, as for having math in our daily life, Robert brought up a really wonderful little factoid, and that's about the numbers, the 25 and the 9.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just to sound thoroughly geeky, we have 25 candidates for city council and 9 for school committee. They have both perfect squares.
Isn't that great?
Isn't that wonderful?
It's very exciting. And another number that's important.
In a city that houses MIT and Harvard, it's very important.
And even those of us who didn't go to MIT or Harvard appreciate those numbers.
Alrighty.
Because those are the easy ones.
Those are the easy
9
ones.
and 25 are the ones I got.
Absolutely.
The other interesting number is for the city council, there's 9 people, there's 9 seats, and 2 people decided not to run. For the school committee, there's how many seats?
The school committee, there are 6 seats to be filled through the election.
Okay, so 6 seats, and again, 2 people decided not to run. So we also have 2 vacancies on the school committee.
That's exactly right.
So who's not coming back?
For the school committee, well, Mark McGovern's not coming back because he's running for city council.
Okay.
And the other person who is actually one of the highest vote getters in recent years is Alice Turkel, who has decided not to seek re-election as well. So we'll have 4 incumbents and 5 challengers to round out the field of 9 running for school committee this year.
That's right. Alice was historic in my mind, because usually when you run, the incumbents tend to have a little more name recognition, might have more ones. Alice came in the very first time she ran, and she got more votes than any other school committee
candidate. Past
candidate.
everyone.
Really
Absolutely.
Beautiful campaign.
Absolutely.
She did a great job. All right, so shall we see the 9?
Yeah, let's work our way
Okay.
through the 9 school committee members.
I'm going to do a really good job this time.
And if you're going to vote for city council, do vote for school committee and learn about both races. This is really your responsibility as a voter, is to make both decisions, not just one.
And if you vote for school committee, make sure you vote for city council too.
Absolutely.
Okay, watch me do some technological magic. Ready?
There we go.
Okay. There
Perfect.
it goes. Thank
Incredible.
you so much.
All right, so
So there's 9 of them.
we have 9 candidates for school committee. Our first candidate is a challenger, Fran Cronin, who lives on Kimball Lane in North Cambridge. As I say, this will be her first attempt at public office.
Okay.
All right. Our next candidate, Susana, you could probably say more about this, having served with Freddie, but Fred Fantini is actually sometimes called the dean of the school committee for having served for as long as he has. He lives in Canal Park in East Cambridge. He's an incumbent. This will be his 17th Cambridge PR election. He He was first elected to the school committee in 1981 and has actually served 30 years in public office.
And you know, just because they've served before doesn't mean that they're not equally nervous like everyone else every election.
No, it's absolutely true.
People really, no one takes their votes for granted.
And I think that's especially true of candidates. So some of these, including Fred, actually once lost an election in the intervening years. So they're very, very, very aware of the possibility that incumbency doesn't guarantee re-election.
Exactly. Here's the next one.
Our next candidate is Joyce Gerber, who from Fairfield Street in North Cambridge. Joyce has been a bit in the news lately because her campaign manager is a really wonderful
I saw
fellow
that article.
who's 11 years old. This is
They
Joyce.
say he's really good at math too.
He's very good at
so
math.
He must appreciate the 25 and 9.
Absolutely. Now, Joyce, this will be her second effort, second pure election. She also ran 2 years ago.
Okay.
And moving along
Yep.
to Richard Mokey Harding.
Incumbent, right?
Incumbent. Richard lives on Windsor Street in Area 4, part of the city. This will be his 7th PR election. He was first elected to the school committee in 2001. Has served for 10 years. All right, our next candidate is another challenger. This is John Holland.
He ran last time too, right?
Yes, he did. He lives on Normandy Terrace. This is his second PR election. He ran in 2011 as well.
Okay.
All right. Now, the youngest candidate in all the both the city council and school committee is actually Elliot Cadet, who lives on Laurel Street in Cambridgeport. This is his first run at public office, and if my database is correct, I believe he's 25 years old. But well, whatever it is, he is definitely he's 24. Excuse me. He'll be 24 come election day. So he's the youngest of our candidates.
That's great. You know, as people say that they don't want to vote or they get worn out, it's good to see young people
I
be
think
interested.
you may very well see some of the younger candidates bringing out a flock of younger voters who know them through school and elsewhere. Our next candidate is another person. This is Kathleen Kelly. It's her first run at public office. She lives on Marie Avenue in Mid-Cambridge. And as I say, this is her first run at public office.
Okay. Incumbent.
Our next candidate is an incumbent. This is Patty Nolan. Patty lives on Huron Avenue in West Cambridge. This will be her 5th PR election in Cambridge. She was first elected and actually, as Susana said, topped the ticket in her. Oh no, you were actually speaking of Alice Turkel.
Yeah.
But I think it's also true for Patty Nolan when she first ran in 2005, I believe. Did she not top the ticket?
We're going to have to do some fact checking.
We have to go do some fact checking, but she was first elected to the school committee in 2005 and has now served, or will have served by the end of this year, 8 years on the Cambridge School Committee.
That's another thing. If you're a candidate, all you care is that you got enough votes to hit quota.
That's all that really matters.
Spectacular.
Everything else is just gravy. We're going to take that excess away anyway.
That's right. I mean, the only plus is knowing that you win before, you get less stress by waiting.
It's personal satisfaction only. Our final candidate among school committee candidates is Mergen Osborne. Mergen Osborne lives on Auburn Street in Cambridgeport. He's now an incumbent. This will be his second PR election in Cambridge. He came in as a new candidate 2 years ago in 2011 and won rather handily. So that rounds out our field of 9 candidates.
Okay, back to you.
All right.
Now, there's 25 city council candidates, 9 school committee candidates. How do people get to know them? How do they get the sense of how to rank them? What happens next?
Well, a lot of things. One is that the candidates tend to seek you out. I think, like it or not, we will all be getting inundated with lots of direct mail. There'll be a lot of phone banking that goes on, yes, and some robocalls as well. So the candidates are always going to try and reach out, but it really
door knocking too, right?
And definitely door knocking.
People will be coming to your house.
Yeah, and most candidates, past and present, will tell you that it's really that sort of retail level, not a wholesale broadcast type campaign that gets you votes. It's that one-to-one contact, door knocking, meeting people at public meetings, out on the street, in the playgrounds, and really getting to know people and winning them over, not 100 at a time, but 1 and 2 and 3 at a time. So you will see them, and if you don't, you should seek them out. Certainly we'll have some information on these candidate pages to help you out here, but there are also a number of candidate events. Actually, if you go to the candidate pages, there's actually a little link in there where you can even see a list of some of the upcoming events, including just small things like coffees, but there'll actually be city council and school committee candidate forums that'll be scheduled primarily as we get later into September, but mainly in October is when we tend to see a lot of these candidate forums. So do come out to the candidate forums if at all possible.
You know, just as an aside, as a candidate, you know, when you're at home and someone knocks on your door, you think, oh, I have to go listen to someone else. But I want you to know, as a candidate, candidates remember all the door knocks they make, and they remember everything that people tell them. So if you have any issues you care about, candidates will remember what you say, and it will matter to them. So answer the door and talk to them, because you will learn about them, and they will remember what you have to say.
Right. It's absolutely true. I mean, City of Cambridge may be a city of 107 or so thousand people with 60,000 registered voters. But in many, many respects, it's really like a small town, like almost like a little village. And that's especially true when you count the people who are dependable voters. It is quite possible for candidates to get to know most of the people who actually end up voting for them, and that really becomes sort of an important step in your election chances.
Well, on that note,
we should wrap it
I
up.
think that's it.
So
I can't believe it.
We're coming to another thrilling conclusion of this edition of Cambridge Inside.
And we're out.